What's up, guys? It's Lord Both here with another video, and two massive films were supposed to dominate the box office this past weekend. One of them seems to be absolutely dominating like it was meant to, or like many people predicted it would, and one is, well, it's not doing great. Now, the first is Lilo and Stitch, Disney's live-action remake, which, interestingly enough, may be one of its last live-action remakes, since they decided to put the pause on the Tangle movie and further live-action adaptations going forward, driven mostly by the massive failure that was Snow White. That said, this does seem to be a counterweight to that massive failure, as I and many other people predicted when we saw the trailers. Because as you can see here, the domestic release of this movie was $183 million, international $158, almost $159, with a worldwide release of almost $342 million. And this is just its opening, meaning that this movie likely gonna hit $1 billion over the course of the summer, especially considering the fact that the next big Disney film to come out will be Fantastic Four, which I don't think is actually going to do that well. And then you don't have another massive Disney project, at least in terms of Marvel, until next year. I think they have a Moana live action remake that they still have on the slate. We'll see if that actually goes through. But yeah, they delayed Doomsday all the way till next year, partly to get it more right after they saw some initial excitement with Thunderbolts, even though it didn't perform well, and they were trying to avoid the release of Grand Theft Auto 6, which they're not really avoiding as much now. It's also important to note that Lilo and Stitch only really had a budget of $100 million as far as remakes go, so it was pretty cheap. You can definitely tell from what I hear when you watch it that they really tried to cut down their CGI budget, making Pleakley and Jumba use the devices to make themselves look human, so they don't have to CGI the alien monsters as much. Probably really paid off for them in terms of expenses. And I think, having an initial budget of $100 million, Disney always lies about how much their movies cost, so it's probably more like $130, $140 million. You triple it because you have the theaters that got to get their cut. You have the marketing that you done for this movie, which this had extensive marketing, probably around the $350 million mark to break even, which it's going to hit that probably after its second week. That's really good. This film's going to do really, really well. Again, like $1 billion well. And the movie is being received very well from the audiences that have gone and seen it. A critic score of 69% and an audience score of 93. Now, when you do go to all audience, it's like 86 or something like that. But still, very positive with 5,000 plus reviews in. This despite the fact that, from what I've heard of this movie, I kind of personally am leaning to the critics are right, if not still being too positive on this film. From what I've heard of a lot of people that have seen this movie, because I haven't seen it myself personally, the whole moral theme around Lilo and Stitch originally, Ohana and always being a family, even when that family is broken or doesn't look like a traditional family, is kind of just thrown out the window in favor of an ending where, I guess, and this is going to be a bit of a spoiler, so don't listen to this part if you don't want spoilers. But apparently Lilo gets taken away by the state so her sister can go study to become a marine biologist, because I guess women power, right? Don't let being a mom to your sister after your parents died hold you down. Just let the state take care of the kid. Now, the second big blockbuster movie that was supposed to hit theaters this past weekend was Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning. This was a movie that a lot of people predicted was not going to do well, despite the fact that it was a big blockbuster movie with a massive budget, $400 million reportedly. And Tom Cruise did all his real stunts. He had his little press circuit where he went around the country, going into actual movie theaters and, palling it up with people. Because Tom Cruise is the last action star. He's the last man of the people when it comes to the movies, right? Well, unfortunately, that can't make this final iteration of Mission Impossible any better. As you might remember, Dead Reckoning also didn't do very well, even though people thought it was actually going to do very well because Tom Cruise was in it and they had just ridden Top Gun Maverick to absolutely astounding heights. Saved the movie theater, right? That's what everybody was talking about with Top Gun Maverick. But apparently, you can't find the same magic with these Mission Impossible movies. Because Dead Reckoning didn't do well, and this movie, as a lot of people predicted, isn't doing well either. As you can see here, $77 million for the domestic. That's Thunderbolts numbers, by the way. And everybody said Thunderbolts was a terrible disaster. Granted, it's in less theaters than Thunderbolts, but still, I mean, that's not good, especially when your budget is $400 million, which was a lot more than Thunderbolts. International, $127 million, for a total of $204 million worldwide for its opening. That's not good. Again, $400 million as an initial budget. You have to add theater cut on top of that, and you have to add marketing. Yeah, this thing is just, it's already a flop. It's not going to make its money back. There's just no way. This is one of those movies that even if it did do really, really well, it would struggle to make its money back just by the sheer massive cost of it. It's one of those movies of a quickly by-going era of massive bloated budget blockbuster movies. Try saying that 5 times fast. Quite simply, we're nearing a point where we can't spend $400, $350, $300 million on initial budgets of movies, doing reshoots after reshoots after reshoots. Which, by the way, another reason why I don't think Fantastic Four is going to do well at all is because they're doing emergency reshoots this past month going into next month or whatever. The movie is supposed to release in July and they're doing reshoots. That's not a thing you're supposed to do. Normally, if somebody say, hey, we need to do reshoots in a movie and it's supposed to release in 2 months, production just tells you, no, there's no way. That's not possible. It's physically not possible to do. But apparently, they're doing it, and I don't think it's well for them. Now, I will say this is another case where people who have gone to see it seem to have liked it. 80% actually from the critics and 89% from the verified audience. It's still in the high 80s when you do all audience, so that's pretty much its actual score. So yeah, really positive about the movie, despite, again, a lot of the people that I follow personally say that this film is actually worse than Dead Reckoning. And a lot of the things in the movie don't really make that much sense. And there's just a lot of elements that they did not like about the movie and the plot of the movie. I probably will not be seeing it myself, just because Mission Impossible movies, they've never really been my thing. When I was a kid, my mom and grandma that raised me, they were big fans of the Mission Impossible TV show. Then they saw the movie. Of course, as we all know, the Mission Impossible movie, wildly different than the actual TV show. Really upset my mom and grandma. We ended up never going to see another Mission Impossible movie. I saw parts of other ones later on. It really never tickled my fancy. So I never really had a desire to go back and watch all of them. Even though I've heard that some of them are fairly good. But again, despite the fact that this has wildly popular reviews, I don't think it's enough to actually get people into the theater. I think people have already made up their minds about this movie after seeing the first one in this sort of 2-film series, right? Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning. They were originally supposed to be part 1 and 2, right? I just don't think people really care enough or are moved enough to go see the conclusion film of this, even though it's supposed to be Tom Cruise's last movie of Mission Impossible. Despite the fact that he said he's never retiring from acting. He just apparently is retiring from the character of Ethan Hunt. In the end, I think this is going to end up being a lot like Thunderbolts, in the way that maybe it's a good movie, maybe it's not, depending on your interpretation of it. But one thing's for sure, people aren't actually going to go out and see it, despite the fact that it has positive ratings, positive reviews. And I don't mean just from the shill press. I mean from people who've actually gone out and seen it. It's just a movie that even word of mouth doesn't seem to be able to move. As for the state of the franchises, It kind of throws up Mission Impossible as a franchise in the air. Quite honestly, I don't think they'll actually ever make another one of these, and if they do, it will be a one-off. It probably will not do well. It will star somebody else, and then they will probably never make another one again. Almost like the Bourne movie that they did with Jeremy Renner that I actually liked, but they've never really touched that series since. As for the Lilo and Stitch movies, I think this movie's success doesn't actually change Disney's opinion on what they're going to do with live action remakes going forward. I think they're going to take the win that counterbalances the massive failure that was Snow White and move on. And I think they're going to be dumping a lot of their eggs into the Marvel basket and are gearing up for Marvel to completely reboot. I think that's what they're focused on and they want to do, while also dealing with the absolute fire that is the Star Wars universe. I don't even get me started on that. But those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you liked this video, go and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, appreciate you watching all of it, and we'll talk to you again later.